Well, good morning. Welcome to Coffee with the Pastor. Hope you're having a great day so far. We're looking at the Gospel of Mark, and we're looking at Mark's off Passion Week very well. We've looked at Sunday, we've looked at Monday. Now we're on Tuesday. Tuesday is a very long day for Jesus. He's been teaching at the Temple Courts, or what we would call Temple Mount today. He's had a long day. He's had confrontations with the religious leaders all day, and they've left the temple. But on the way out, one of the disciples looks at the temple and says, "What beautiful buildings they are! Look at the massive stones. Look at all like that." And Jesus says something surprising to them. He says, "You see these stones? There won't be one left on top of the other." And he's making a prophecy. And that would have shocked them because temple worship was just so central to them. And this was against any teaching they'd ever had. Of course, we talked about earlier on Monday that we don't need the temple now because we have Jesus. We have direct access to Jesus. We don't need the sacrificial system. God doesn't live in a room, and we don't go visit him there. But anyway, when they get over to the Mount of Olives, which is right across the Kidron Valley from the Temple Mount, some of his disciples come to him and ask him, "What do you mean by that?" Peter, James, John, and Andrew, it said, came, and he's teaching them. And his teachings seem to vacillate between what was going to happen in 70 AD, which hadn't happened yet, about the Romans coming and destroying the temple, and what was going to happen at his second coming. And he just intermixes them quite well. And we're in the second half of these teachings today, and we're at verse 14. He says, "When you see the abomination that causes desolation, standing where it does not belong, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." The abomination that causes desolation. Now, this is from Daniel. Something that would desecrate the temple. He says, when you see the abomination of desolation, what is that? Well, nobody knows for sure. I've had some people try and say that it was when the Seleucids, that it had already happened when Jesus did it. So when the Seleucids had come in and they put the image of Zeus in, I don't think that's true because Jesus is saying when you see, it's in the future that this is going to happen, and that was in the past. Some think that Caligula, who was the emperor after Jesus, he was the Roman emperor, and he was going to have his image put in the temple, and it was on its way to Jerusalem. In fact, there were Jews who were there ready to fight to keep it from coming in. But when the idol was on its way, the image of Caligula on its way to the temple, he got assassinated, so that called that off. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I'm thinking that it could be when the temple was destroyed, when the armies gathered, and the Roman army gathered, and it came in and destroyed the temple. There are a lot of people who feel like it will happen around the tribulation time before Jesus comes back, that the Antichrist will come and set up his image. There will be a temple that will be rebuilt, and that Antichrist will set up his image. Hard to argue that. The big thing is, and I think one of the things we have to sometimes is say, I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. And anybody tries to tell you they know, they don't know. But he says something interesting. He says, flee to the mountains. In other words, he said, get out of there. Now, what's he talking about here now? At the second coming, my understanding is that everybody's going to see Jesus. When he comes the second time, he's going to come. Final judgment's going to happen. Nobody's going to be able to hide. You can't hide in the mountains or anywhere else. But he's telling the people to go flee to the mountains. This is what I think. I think he's talking to the Christians who are in Jerusalem. I think he says, when you start seeing these events, when the Roman army starts gathering, starts coming down, there starts being a revolt against Rome, I think he basically said, I want my followers to be a part of that. And they weren't. They took Jesus' advice. They left Jerusalem and probably helped save Christianity because they did. But you don't find Christians involved in this Jewish revolt of 70 AD. They're not around to be found in it. Some people say that they, but they fled and they got out of there. And he just said, don't be a part of that nonsense. He said, let no one on the roof of his house go down or enter the house or take anything out. Let no one in the field go back to get his cloak. How dreadful it will be in those days for pregnant women and nursing mothers. Pray that this will not take place in winter, because those will be days of distress unequaled from the beginning, when God created the world until now, and never to be equaled again. If the Lord had not cut short those days, no one would survive. But for the sake of the elect whom he has chosen, he has shortened them. Now, is he talking about what's going to happen in 70 AD? Is he talking about the second coming? You can see both. It was awful what happened with Rome. I mean, we read about the Roman army destroying Jerusalem, especially destroying the temple. They went to Masada. We read about the events that happened at Masada after that. But Rome called off the attacks after that. And it is interesting, but it's also very parallel to what the vision of John had in the Revelation. If you look at the book of Revelation, a lot of that stuff coincides with what Jesus is teaching here. So it could be one, it could be the other, it could be both. I think it's both, truthfully. Verse 21 says, at that time, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, look, there he is, do not believe it. For false Christ and false prophets will appear and perform signs and miracles to deceive the elect, if that were possible. I like that. He says that there's false prophets, false Christ going to come, and they're going to do miracles. They're going to try and deceive the elect. He said, if that were possible. He said, it's really not possible for somebody who's a true believer in Jesus Christ to be fooled. He said, so be on your guard. I've told you everything ahead of time. But in those days, following that distress, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Read the book of Revelation sometime and see if that doesn't match up. At that time, men will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. Now he's talking about the second coming. And he will send his angels and gather his elect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of the heavens. So now he's anything he might have been talking about with the revolt in 70 AD is gone. He's now talking second coming. He says, now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer's near. Even so, when you see these things happening, you know that it is near, right at the door. I will tell you the truth, this generation will certainly not pass away till all these things have happened. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. So Jesus says, I'm coming back. And he said, I'm going to give you signs. And he gave signs, wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, all kinds of eclipses, and all kinds of strange things that happen on the earth and like that. So when you start seeing these signs, know that I'm coming back soon. And I think we need to be looking for Jesus coming back, and he's going to talk about that in the passages right after this. So we'll look at that tomorrow, and I hope you have a blessed day, and I hope your prayer today is, come Lord Jesus, and come soon, Lord Jesus. Thank you. See you tomorrow.